The Subaru Ascent is an outdoorsy three-row SUV. And while it may seem to just be another option in a saturated segment, the Ascent is actually a true standout in the class, and I'll show you why. If you haven't done so already, please subscribe to the channel so you can help me take this to the next level. Thank you. Now back to the review. I won't spend too much time with exterior styling just because there's not too much special going on here. Quite frankly, it looks like a big Subaru. Now, it does nicely differentiate itself from other members of the Subaru family with this kind of bigger grille, bigger headlights. Just everything looks a little bit more puffed up. There are many body lines on here to give it more of a defined look, yet none of them are too sharp. The Ascent follows the typical Subaru trim names, which means you have base, then you have premium, then you have limited, and then you have touring. There are no special editions like a Sport or Onyx edition. You get LED headlights and LED fog lights on the limited and the touring trims. Below that, you don't get any fog lights, and you have halogens up front. While the Ascent doesn't come with the same stereotypes as the Outback, it does have the same 8.7 inches of ground clearance that is shared among all Subaru SUVs. While its approach, breakover, and departure angles limit its off-road prowess, its standard all-wheel drive system and good ground clearance should make it proficient at family camping trips or running over curbs in a Kroger parking lot. The side profile of the Ascent is akin to what we see in most of the class, which can make it a little boring. Also, I'd like to give Jared Mann and Chris Parentoni from Royal on the Eastside a big thanks for loaning me an Ascent. If you're in the market for something new, used, or just plain cool, check out Royal on the Eastside. It still has a rugged look with the body cladding that's there to kind of protect from rocks coming up and hitting the paint. You do have 20-inch rims on the limited and touring models, but they still have enough sidewall where potholes shouldn't scare you too much. You do have 18s on the premium and base. The base will also have black mirrors. The touring will have these like aluminum finished mirrors, which look pretty cool. Touring models also get a black grille and chrome door handles. Proximity unlock and lock comes optional on the premium. The rear of the Subaru Ascent isn't flashy. It looks well put together. Things don't look chintzy. You have a power rear tailgate that's standard on the limited and touring, optional on the premium. Overall, the Ascent's aesthetics aren't pushing any boundaries. It isn't ugly, but to me it looks a little dated and plump. But this is subjective. Tell me what you guys think in the comments section. The Ascent's more conservative exterior design carries over some to the interior. The first thing that I noticed whenever I started driving this thing was, wow, there's like places to put everything. Like there's like a little nice cubby right here for my audio recorder if I wanted to put it there. There's cubbies over here where you can put phones, and there's including door pockets, and then 19 cup holders, because why the fuck not? Numbers aside, I think people will appreciate that practicality more than anything else in this interior, and this interior does a lot of things right. Another big plus to the interior is the quality. Most things you interact with in here are quite soft. The elbow rests, the small steering wheel, many parts of the dashboard, and there's contrast stitching on most of it too. The only thing not here is padding where your knees rest. The fit of everything is pretty tight and it all just feels solid. Materials are good outside of the cheap looking buttons. The Mazda CX-9, Kia Telluride, and Palisade have a more premium look in my mind, but this shouldn't disappoint. Another bonus, to some, are the non-digital controls. It keeps things analog and physical without seeming dated. I know I love Audi's virtual cockpit and stuff, and there's a lot of digital gauge clusters that look cool, but this cluster is visually pleasing and still has a multi-function display for the essentials. There's an additional display up top that will show you even more things. The Starlink 8-inch touchscreen here is available with navigation, and while it's not the most snappy, the interface is easy to use. Base models miss out on the 8-inch unit and make do with a lower quality 6.5-inch screen. At least you get standard Apple CarPlay and Android Auto with either 4, 6, or 8 USB ports. Sidebar, no matter what color you choose, all Ascents get a tan colored little accent bar thing that adds color to especially the black interiors. Also, the Ascent Touring is only available in a polarizing brown interior.
You have physical controls, unlike the new Subaru Outback, which went to the full 11.6-inch display. You're gonna get heated seats on your premium trims. If you get the Touring trim, you'll get ventilated seats. You're gonna get a 6-speaker audio system in here as standard. Surprisingly, I like it. I have very little complaints. If you're an audiophile and you don't want to spend the money on the Limited with the power moonroof in order to get just the Harman Kardon speakers, you can actually get a Rockford Fosgate audio accessory that will give you a higher output system. Now, that Harman Kardon system is a 14-speaker unit. I'm sure it sounds great, as Harman Kardon systems usually do in Subarus. Now, something that I really appreciate about the Subaru Ascent are these seats. They are so comfortable, and they're actually shaped for a human body. Something that I find in a lot of these larger SUVs is they're like scared to bolster or contour anything. This kind of hugs you more, but there's nothing aggressive to it at the same time. And then if you get the Limited trim and up, you get a adjustable thigh section, which is really nice for taller drivers like me.
That makes this a 10-way seat. The Premium has an 8-way power seat, and the Base just has a 6-way manually adjustable seat. The passenger side is 4-way adjustable with a power option available, but now let's talk space and then hop in the back.
I'm 6'3", I have plenty of headroom. Hip room is just a little bit tight, but now with me in a comfortable position, I'll go and try to sit in the back seat behind myself. So Subaru says that this has more legroom than the Volkswagen Atlas, and I just disagree. I can sit in every row of the Atlas and actually be okay. And I am nowhere close to my knees even touching the back of the seat in the Atlas. The Ascent is just simply not the biggest. Now, I'm not saying that I'm uncomfortable back here, because it's really far from the case. I honestly feel like I'm more comfortable back here than I was in the Atlas, just because these seats actually have curves in them that form to my body more, and the elbow rests are a little bit softer. Now, the chances of you having a 6'3" person in the front seat and then somebody who's just as tall in the back is probably pretty low, so I don't see most families running into this problem, but it's definitely a worthy note. Now, at least I do get heated seats back here, since this is the Limited, and every trim other than the Base model is going to have their own HVAC controls back here, which is pretty sweet. The Base trim is going to have 8 seats. The Premium and Limited have the option for captain's chairs like this one does. And then the Touring is only going to be a 7-seater. So now that I'm sitting in the back of the back, well, quite frankly, if I'm sitting behind somebody, I'm not going to be happy. With the seat in the position that I just had it, my knees are basically pinned upwards. Now, I have to keep in mind that this is mainly going to be for kids, and this would be fine for kids. The nice thing is that these seats are higher off the ground than they are in like the Honda Pilot. So, you'll have more support. If I put the seat back and I roll it up a little bit, I could be fine back here for a little bit.
And that says a lot. The third row also has 5 cup holders and up to 4 USB ports. Again, because why the hell not? Worried about kids dueling to the death in the back seat? With the standard dad mirror, all is visible. It's safe to say that no backseat user is shunned in the Subaru Ascent. It isn't quite as cavernous as some competitors, but it makes up for that in comfort.
So right now I'm just relaxing behind the third row of the Subaru Ascent, and it's honestly just fine as far as cargo space goes, even behind the third row. Now, if we look at when these seats are folded, we have a generous amount of cargo here. The floor is pretty high up though. I think that the Honda Pilot and Atlas are better packaged and have a more usable cargo area than this. All in all, the Ascent is towards the top of the class in space. Is it a class leader? No, but Where it makes up that little lost ground is on the road. The Subaru Ascent drives like a Subaru Outback that's been lifting for a few years. The 2.4 liter turbocharged Boxer 4 is, well, good. It makes 277 pound-feet of torque at just 2,000 RPM and 260 horsepower up at 5,600 RPM. This makes for a spirited driving experience, something that I wasn't exactly expecting. The Honda Pilot has 280 horsepower. The Chevy Traverse has a little bit over 300. But this feels just as peppy as even the Honda Pilot, which is, well, the drag racing champ of the V6 mid-size segment. It's a different kind of delivery, though. You can just press on the gas even just a little bit. Subaru tuned the CVT pretty well here to be responsive. You don't really need to prompt the turbocharger to spool up. It just goes. It feels very natural for a turbocharged engine.
This powertrain really doesn't draw attention to itself unless you are launching it, in which case you can tell it has a CVT, as there is a bit of a delay until full send is achieved from a stop. My tester dashed to 60 in 7.4 seconds, which places it towards the upper end of the segment. The Ascent does have an 8-speed paddle shifting manual mode built up of select gear ratios, but I found the transmission to be dialed in out of the box to the point where sporty driving wouldn't really need this. This thing really hustles if you get on it while going anywhere from 30 to 60. It's this passing oomph from the low and broad power band that I think buyers will admire more than its 0 to 60 sprint.
Some people are upset to see the 3.6 liter that used to be in the Tribeca and the Outback, which we're not going to talk about the Tribeca at all. The arms of the angel. But the Outback lost its 3.6 liter for this model year, and they didn't bother to put it in the Ascent because this turbocharged engine is really good. It more than gets the job done for the Ascent. And it gets 26 miles to the gallon on the highway, up to even 27 depending on which trim you pick. While also towing 5,000 pounds, the base trim only tows 2,000 pounds due to the lack of a transmission cooler. The steering is light but tight on center. Whenever you start to turn it a little bit more, there's kind of a nice build up in weight. This electric power steering rack is numb, but at least the steering is pretty precise.
While sports car steering probably isn't a priority here, comfort and noise levels are, and once again, the Ascent fails to disappoint.
It's more quiet than a lot of SUVs in this class. Now, I haven't driven the new 2020 Toyota Highlander or the new Kia Telluride, so I can't report from those, but I don't see anybody being disappointed with the ride noise. Wind noise is also kept to a minimum. Now, comfort is also superb. It goes over large potholes, bumps with little to no drama. That's partially due to very rigid Subaru Global platform that underpins this, and also due to just good dampening.
It takes a crater of a pothole to actually disturb the cabin, and it's not like this thing has a soft ride. In fact, I'd say it has a stiffer ride than a lot of its competition, yet it takes rough roads better than all of its peers I've driven so far. The smooth ride also translates to composure in the twisties, and a low center of gravity also facilitates cornering.
The minimal body roll also is thanks to the same global architecture, but then also the Boxer 4 engine laying up front with the lower center of gravity because it fires like this. I honestly enjoy driving this. And the comfortable seats also don't really give you any fatigue. I mean, this is a great, and I mean a great road trip vehicle. And even when you get into corners or really rough pavement, you're not going to have any issues with this thing. And it's honestly a little fun to flick around the corners just because, one, it's kind of peppy. There's not very much pitch or body roll. And the all-wheel drive system is full time. I'm not experiencing any kind of wheel slip in here, even though I've kind of driven this in a obnoxious manner.
And there is no sport mode or all-wheel drive terrain select either. It just has good steering, a well-tuned suspension, and a competent full-time all-wheel drive system. The Ascent is always ready to go. The only things that change the Ascent's mood is the arbitrary manual mode and Subaru's X mode, which in short is a "oh damn, we might have to tow this bitch out of here" mode. that will only work at speeds of up to 18 miles per hour and tries to maximize any traction it has left to keep you from getting stuck. It's also a hill descent control. One thing that the Ascent does lack that most of its competitors do have is an engine auto stop-start function. And I am not complaining. While they prove to be a nuisance to me only on occasion, I hear many more complaints from others. The Ascent goes without it and it gets stellar gas mileage, so good job, Subie.
Another strong suit of the Ascent and most Subarus is visibility. This doesn't offer as transparent of an experience as the Subaru Forester, but still you sit up pretty high. The seating position is more SUV-like than it would be in a Subaru Outback, and the windows are large and low, so I can see pretty much anywhere I want to. Out the back it's okay, even with the third row headrests up. The active safety tech also works pretty well. You have lane centering. It's obviously not a Tesla, but it works pretty well. Basically, all of the active safety tech is here from the base model, except for blind spot monitoring, which comes standard on the premium, and then reverse automatic braking, which is standard on the limited, optional on the premium. The fact that you're going to get forward collision mitigation and adaptive cruise control from standard is a nice touch.
But that's normal for the class at this point. What isn't typical is the Ascent's great predicted resale. Subaru was Kelley Blue Book's 5-year lowest cost to own brand in 2019. So does that mean that the Ascent is more dependable than a Toyota Highlander? No. I would bet on the Highlander going 15 years with less issues than the Ascent, but at least the Subaru's CVT is built by Subaru and not the notorious Jatco like Nissan's. Subaru's design is robust, but they have not been problem-free. When the Ascent first came out, there was a recall and many needed new transmissions. Usually first model year cars have some issues, and I'm not seeing transmission complaints on the 2020, so I assume that Subaru worked it out, but this wouldn't be a review if I didn't share that. Oil consumption used to be an issue in the past few decades with Subarus, and Toyotas for that matter, but this problem and head gasket problems have supposedly been fixed. Again, the exceptional resale is an added protection of investment in the off chance that something expensive does go wrong with an Ascent. Overall, if reliability is a major concern to you like it is to me, I'd still be comfortable recommending the Ascent, and it has so much to offer beyond that. While I do think that there are better looking vehicles in the class with more premium interiors, I think the Ascent doesn't fall short in any category, and its first class comfort and composed driving dynamics make it truly stand out. If you need the absolute maximum in passenger space from your SUV, then I think the Ascent might not be enough for you. There are more spacious options in the segment. Outside of that, if you're looking for a 3-row midsize SUV, no matter what your priorities are, the Ascent really deserves to be on your shortlist. Thanks for watching. If you haven't done so already, please subscribe to the channel, and I'll see you in the next one.